My name is Jack, and I live in a small town that is peaceful and full of technology. The sky here is always as blue as a gem, with cotton candy-like clouds floating by. The sun shines through the gaps in the leaves, creating patches of golden light. In this seemingly peaceful place, I have a seemingly happy and contented family, and my wife, Ellie, is the most dazzling presence in this family. Ellie is the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. Her long, waterfall-like blonde hair shimmers with a charming luster in the sunlight, like flowing gold. It is soft and full of texture, and when it gently sways, it seems to be dancing with life. Her eyes are like the azure waters of a lake, clear and deep, as if they hold endless secrets. When she looks at you, her gaze seems to penetrate your soul, making you involuntarily fall into it. Her nose is tall and delicate, her lips full and rosy, like the petals of a delicate rose. Every time she raises the corners of her mouth slightly to reveal that charming smile, it can make my heart melt instantly. Eli's figure is even more tall and graceful, with a curvy body. Her posture is elegant, and every movement seems like a carefully choreographed dance, light and rhythmic. Her slender waist is a perfect fit for her plump buttocks and long legs. When she wears a tight-fitting dress, her figure is even more attractive and mesmerizing. Her skin is as white as snow, delicate and smooth, exuding a soft luster in the sunlight, as if it were a work of art carefully carved by heaven. Our home is a delicate villa surrounded by a lush garden. The garden is full of all kinds of flowers, roses, tulips, lilies. Every time the flowers bloom, the whole garden is filled with an intoxicating fragrance. Ellie and I often take walks in the garden, holding hands, sharing each other's joys and sorrows. Those were the best times of my life. However, the calm of life is always broken by sudden accidents. That day, a low rumble suddenly came from the sky, as if it were a roar from hell. Ellie and I were pruning flowers in the garden when we heard the sound, and we both stopped what we were doing and looked up at the sky. We saw a huge figure slowly flying from afar. The figure got closer and closer, and became clearer and clearer. When we saw what it looked like, we were shocked. It was a huge mechanical octopus lord. Its body was enormous, gleaming with a cold metallic luster, and it shimmered eerily in the sunlight. Its 8 tentacles were as hard as steel, swinging nimbly, and at the end of each one were sharp claws that seemed capable of tearing through anything. The mechanical octopus lord had a pair of huge red eyes on its head, emitting an icy light that seemed to see everything. The mechanical octopus lord slowly landed in our garden, and its weight made the ground tremble. I instinctively protected Ellie behind me and watched this uninvited guest warily. Ellie's body trembled slightly, but a strange light flashed in her eyes, a light that seemed to contain curiosity, surprise, and even a trace of imperceptible excitement. At the time, I didn't pay attention to this strange feeling, thinking only that she was shocked by the sudden appearance of this huge creature. After the mechanical octopus lord came to a stop, its head slowly rotated, and its pair of red eyes scanned us. I could feel its gaze full of indifference and a sense of oppression, as if we were just insignificant ants in its eyes. One of its tentacles slowly extended and moved closer to us. I clenched my fists, ready to fight this monster if necessary. Just then, the tentacle of the mechanical octopus lord stopped not far from us. Its head emitted a low sound, as if it were directly transmitted from its metal body, with a mechanical texture. Although I couldn't understand what it was saying, I could feel that it didn't seem to have the intention to attack us immediately. Suddenly, Ellie stepped out from behind me. Her eyes were full of curiosity as she slowly walked towards the mechanical octopus lord. I tried to hold her back, but she gently shook herself free. She walked up to the tentacle of the mechanical octopus lord and reached out to gently touch the cold metal surface. The mechanical octopus lord did not make any aggressive movements, but instead lifted its tentacle slightly, as if to cooperate with Ellie's actions. I watched this scene with a heart full of doubt and unease. Ellie's interaction with the mechanical octopus lord felt strange to me. I had never seen her so bold and proactive. I stood still, watching them, with a vague feeling of foreboding in my heart, not knowing that this was only the beginning of a nightmare, and a huge crisis was quietly approaching us. After the mechanical octopus lord interacted with Ellie for a while, its tentacles slowly retracted, and then its body began to slowly rise, preparing to leave. Ellie stood still, a trace of reluctance in her eyes. She kept her gaze on the mechanical octopus lord until it disappeared at the end of the sky. Ellie returned to me, her face wearing an elusive smile, and her eyes still retained the excitement of just now. I looked at her, my heart filled with deepening doubts, but I did not ask her immediately. I just silently took her hand and led her back home. From that day on, subtle changes began to take place in our lives, but I was oblivious to it all. A huge storm was quietly brewing, about to completely change our destiny. After the mysterious visit of the mechanical octopus overlord, Ellie's change was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, causing ripples and sending the originally peaceful life into a slight turmoil. At first, I didn't pay much attention to it, thinking that she was just curious about that novel mechanical creature. But as the days passed, Ellie's behavior became more and more strange, and the unease in my heart spread like a vine. Ellie began to frequently stare at the metal box sent by the mechanical octopus overlord. The box had an irregular polyhedral appearance, with intricate patterns engraved on the surface, exuding a cold metallic luster, as if it had mysterious magic. Whenever she sat on the sofa and gently held the box in her hands, her eyes became distracted and focused, as if the whole world had become just her and the box in her hands. Her gaze wanders over the surface of the box, and occasionally she will reach out her finger and gently touch the lines, her movements soft and slow, as if she were caressing a precious treasure. I have tried to get closer and see what secrets the box holds, but every time I get close, Ellie quickly hides the box behind her back, her eyes betraying a hint of panic and displeasure. Not only that, Ellie used to love to stroll in the garden with me, enjoying the peaceful and beautiful time together. We would hold hands, talk about the little things in life, and our laughter would echo throughout the garden. But now, she always stays in her room alone all day. The door to her room is tightly shut, as if shutting me out of another world. I have knocked on the door many times, wanting to go in and see what she is doing, but she always refuses for various reasons, her voice sounding a little tired and impatient. I can only stand outside the door, my heart filled with doubts and worries. Her makeup had also changed dramatically. In the past, she always preferred fresh and light makeup that accentuated her natural beauty. But now, her makeup was becoming more and more intense. Her eyeshadow has become deep and mysterious, like a black hole in the night sky, as if it can attract people in. Her eyeliner is drawn thin and long, slightly upward, adding a touch of charm and coldness. Her lips are painted with bright lipstick, like burning flames, which stand out against her fair skin. Her figure seems to have been deliberately modified to make it more sexy. In the past, she liked to wear comfortable casual clothes, but now she always wears a tight-fitting dress that shows off her figure to the fullest. The material of the dress is smooth and close-fitting, and it sways gently with her movements, as if whispering a seductive song. Her high heels have also become slimmer, making a crisp, click sound as she walks, and every step seems to pound on my heart. Once I was waiting for Ellie in the living room. When she slowly walked down the stairs, I could hardly believe my eyes. She was wearing a tight-fitting black dress with a low neckline that revealed her pale collarbone and a large area of skin. The hemline was very short, just covering her buttocks, and her slender legs looked even more charming against the backdrop of the high heels. Her hair had been carefully styled into an elegant bun, with a few strands falling down her cheeks, adding a touch of femininity. She wore a shiny necklace around her neck, which shimmered in the light. There was a sense of confidence and pride in her eyes, as if she had become a different person. I looked at her and a complex of emotions welled up in my heart. I was both amazed by her beauty and disturbed by her change. I walked up to her and tried to talk to her, but she only gave me a fleeting glance before walking straight to the door, picking up her handbag and preparing to leave. I hurriedly asked, "Ellie, where are you going?" She replied without looking back, "Something's come up. I'll be back later." With that, she opened the door and walked out, leaving me standing alone in the living room, my heart full of loss and confusion. As time passed, Ellie's changes became more and more obvious. She became increasingly indifferent, always responding perfunctorily to my concerns and greetings. Our communication became less and less, and the intimacy and understanding we once had seemed to disappear. I tried to communicate with her, to understand her inner thoughts, but every time I opened my mouth, she would interrupt me with excuses or simply turn and leave. I felt like a forgotten person, becoming increasingly lonely in this home. I began to secretly observe her every move, trying to find out the reason for her change. I discovered that she often secretly opened the metal box late at night, and strange sounds would come from the room, like the whispering of a language or the sound of machinery. Whenever this happened, I would gently go to her door to listen clearly to the sounds inside, but every time I got close, the sounds would suddenly stop. I knew that Ellie's change was closely related to the mechanical octopus overlord, but I couldn't stop it from happening, and I could only watch her get further and further away from me, filled with helplessness and pain. I didn't know how this storm would develop or what our future would hold, but I always had one belief in my heart, and that was that no matter what, I had to find the old Ellie and our old happy life. But could I really do it? This question weighs like a heavy stone on my heart, making me feel incredibly depressed and lost. The changes in Ellie are like a dense fog that continues to fill our lives, and I feel increasingly lost and helpless in this fog. As time passed, I gradually became aware that Ellie's fascination with the mechanical octopus lord was taking root in her heart in a quiet but rapid manner. Ellie began to frantically collect all the information she could find about the mechanical octopus lord. She spent all day in her study, with the computer screen full of information related to the mechanical octopus lord. She was engrossed in the obscure text and complex pictures. She also ordered many professional science and technology magazines and books, and anything related to mechanical creatures or alien technology was like treasure to her. The bookshelves, which were originally filled with our favorite literary works and art albums, are now occupied by these materials about the mechanical octopus lord. The heavy books are stacked one on top of the other, as if they are a testament to Ellie's obsession with the mechanical octopus lord. Her room has undergone a radical change. The once cozy bedroom is now covered with portraits of the mechano octopus lord. These portraits are in different styles. Some are professional mechanical design drawings that show the internal structure and mechanical principles of the mechano octopus lord in detail. Others are imaginary drawings based on rumors, depicting the mechano octopus lord as mysterious and majestic. Ellie stood in the center of the room, looking at the portraits on the walls with adoration and love in her eyes, as if the cold mechanical creature were a god in her heart. I tried to communicate with her, hoping to wake her up from this crazy infatuation. One night, I knocked gently on her door and saw her sitting on the bed, holding a book about the energy system of the mechanical octopus lord in her hands and reading with focused eyes. I walked up to her and said softly, "Ellie, let's talk. Your recent changes have made me worried. What is it about this mechanical octopus lord that attracts you?" Ellie looked up at me and gave me a glance that no longer had the gentleness of old, but only a hint of impatience. She closed the book in her hands and said, "You don't understand. The mechanical octopus lord has unparalleled power, and its technology far surpasses our imagination. Every design and every function of it fascinates me." I tried to argue with her, but she immediately interrupted me. "Don't say any more. You don't understand how I feel at all." After that, she lowered her head again and continued flipping through the book, as if I, standing next to her, did not exist. Ellie's makeup and clothing also increasingly catered to the mechanical octopus lord in her heart. Her lips became more and more vivid, and the strong red color seemed to express her passion to the mechanical octopus lord. Her figure was even more seductive under the tight skirt, and she always seemed to be deliberately showing off her beauty, hoping to gain the favor of the mechanical octopus lord. She began to frequently buy futuristic and technologically inspired clothing. The metallic fabrics and unique cuts made her look like a character from a science fiction world. One time we went to a friend's party. In the past, Ellie would always carefully select an elegant dress and become the focus of the party. But this time, She wore a silver tight-fitting one-piece suit, decorated with many glowing elements that shimmered with a strange light as she moved. Her hair had been dyed silver white and looked dazzling in the light. Her makeup was also more exaggerated, with deep blue eyeshadow, as if the cold eyes of the mechanical octopus overlord, and bright purple lipstick, like the mysterious energy emanating from the mechanical octopus overlord. Her appearance immediately attracted everyone's attention, and everyone cast strange glances. At the party, Ellie simply ignored my existence. She talked enthusiastically with those who also knew something about the mechanical octopus lord, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Her voice was clear and loud, and she kept talking about her research and opinions on the mechanical octopus lord. I stood silently aside, watching her unfamiliar appearance, my heart filled with bitterness. As time passed, Ellie became increasingly indifferent to me. She no longer cared about my work or my life, and she rarely even ate with me at the table anymore. She always stayed in her room alone, lost in her own world of obsession with the mechanical octopus lord. I tried to go into her room again to have a good talk with her, but when I pushed open the door, I saw her murmuring to a portrait of the mechanical octopus lord on the wall, as if she were having some kind of mysterious conversation with it. I stood in the doorway, a sharp pain in my heart, and tears welled up in my eyes. I knew that Ellie had completely fallen under the spell of the mechanical octopus lord, and I felt like an outsider, unable to enter her inner world. The gentle, beautiful wife I once knew had become so unfamiliar. I was unwilling to lose her like this, and I decided to investigate the mechanical octopus lord in greater depth, hoping to find a way to wake Ellie up. But the deeper I delved, the more secrets I discovered behind the mechanical octopus overlord, and I found myself in the midst of an even deeper mystery. How can I possibly win this war against the mechanical octopus overlord? Can I really save Ellie and return our lives to the way they were? These questions kept circling in my head, making me feel more pressure and fear than ever before. The days passed as Ellie became more and more obsessed with her obsession. I was in agony and struggling to find a way to get her back, but I always came up empty-handed. The distance between Ellie and me was like an invisible ravine, getting farther and farther apart, and I could only watch helplessly. It was a seemingly ordinary afternoon. The sunlight shone through the windows, creating patches of dappled light and shadow. I had finished work early, so I returned home early, unusually, thinking that I would be able to surprise Ellie. However, I never expected that what awaited me would be a nightmare that would destroy my entire world. When I opened the door, the house was filled with a faint, unfamiliar scent, a mixture of metal and strange spices that made my heart sink. I called out softly for Ellie, but there was no response. I followed the familiar stairs to our bedroom, every step as if I were stepping on my own heartbeat, nervous and anxious. When I pushed open the bedroom door, the scene in front of me left my mind blank, as if time had frozen at that moment. Ellie was embracing the mechanical octopus lord in the living room. Her delicate body was snuggled up against the cold metal body, and her face was filled with a happy smile I had never seen before. Her hands were wrapped around the arms of the mechanical octopus lord, her eyes full of love and obsession, as if the whole world had left only her and the cold mechanical creature in front of her. The huge body of the mechanical octopus overlord occupied most of the living room, its 8 tentacles stretching out at random, one of which rested lightly on Ellie's shoulder, as if proclaiming its sovereignty to me. Its huge red eyes coldly stared at me, revealing a hint of disdain and mockery in their gaze. I angrily asked, "Ellie, what are you doing? What the hell is going on?" My voice trembled with anger and shock, and tears welled in my eyes. Ellie looked up at me, her eyes showing no trace of remorse, but instead a hint of indifference and impatience. She gently broke free of the mechanical octopus lord's embrace, stood up, straightened her clothes, and said, "Jack, I don't want to hide it anymore. I'm in love with it, with its power, its wisdom, everything about it. Being with it is when I truly feel the meaning of life." I looked at Ellie, the woman I had once loved deeply, the woman I had thought would be with me for the rest of my life, and she looked so strange to me. I tried to persuade her, "Ellie, Are you crazy? It's just a mechanical creature, without feelings or a soul. We were so in love. How could you do this to me? But Ellie interrupted me, her voice firm and resolute. You don't understand. You never understood me. What the mechanical octopus lord can give me is something you can never give. I have already made up my mind. I want to be with it. I felt the world spinning, as if the whole world was collapsing. I rushed over to try to pull Ellie away, but one of the tentacles of the mechanical octopus overlord easily blocked my way. Its tentacles were as hard as steel, and I could not shake them at all. Ellie looked at me, and a flash of reluctance passed through her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by determination. She said, "Jack, just go. It's over." I stood there in a daze, looking at Ellie and the mechanical octopus lord, my heart filled with pain and despair. I had imagined our future countless times, that we would grow old together and watch our children grow up. But now, all of that had been completely destroyed by the sudden appearance of this mechanical octopus lord. Ellie's beautiful face felt so unfamiliar to me at the moment, and the smile that once made my heart flutter now seemed so glaring. Her slender figure, wrapped in a tight-fitting dress, was still charming, but I could no longer feel a trace of warmth. Her long blonde hair shimmered in the sunlight, but I felt that the light was so cold. I turned around and left the room, tears streaming uncontrollably down my face. I heard Ellie close the door behind me, the sound like a heavy shackle, completely cutting me off from the happiness of the past. I walked out of the house and stood in the street, looking at everything familiar around me, but feeling as if I were in a strange world. Back at the office, I locked myself in my office, and the image of Ellie embracing the mechanical octopus overlord kept popping up in my mind. I couldn't accept the fact that my beloved wife had betrayed our marriage by falling in love with a mechanical creature. I began to recall the bits and pieces of our past, those good times, those sweet moments, but now they had all turned into sharp knives, stabbing my heart. I knew that I could not just give up in this battle. I decided to find the weak points of the mechanical octopus overlord, to make Ellie come to her senses, and to get our lives back on track. I dried my tears, picked myself up, and started gathering more information about the mechanical octopus overlord, preparing for a real battle with it. What I didn't know was that this battle would be far more difficult than I imagined, and Ellie's heart was far more complicated than I could see. In this whirlpool of pain and betrayal, I wondered if I could find a way out and win Ellie's heart back. But I knew I couldn't give up, because I loved Ellie so much and I couldn't lose her. Ever since I witnessed Ellie's betrayal with the mechanical octopus lord that day, my life has completely fallen into darkness. I returned to the company and locked myself in my office. Everything outside seemed distant and blurry. My desk was piled high with documents, but my eyes could never focus on the words. The image of Ellie and the mechanical octopus lord embracing played over and over in my mind, like sharp steel needles, piercing every nerve in my body. In the days that followed, I struggled with the pain, my heart torn between two very different emotions. I loved Ellie dearly, and we had so many fond memories together, strolls in the garden, sweet vows under the stars, that I could not bear to let go. I could not imagine life without her, and every thought told me that I had to win her back, that I had to restore our love to its original state. However, Ellie's betrayal and her obsession with the mechanical octopus overlord seemed like an insurmountable chasm between us. Her cold eyes and decisive words make me feel incredibly strange and scared. I began to doubt whether the Ellie I loved still existed within this body, enchanted by the mechanical octopus overlord. I tried every means to win Ellie's heart back. I sent her countless messages, filled with my thoughts of her and my longing for the past. I recalled every warm moment we had spent together, hoping to arouse the emotions deep within her. I told her that I was willing to change for her, to understand everything she was pursuing, as long as she could return to my side. But these messages were like stones sinking into the sea, without any response. I also tried to wait for her at the places she often went to, hoping to bump into her and communicate with her face to face. I wandered around the coffee shop, park, and movie theater we had been to together, and it seemed that our laughter still lingered in every corner. But every time I could only return disappointed. It was as if Ellie was deliberately avoiding me, and her figure never appeared again in these places that were once full of our memories. One day, I finally got a chance to meet Ellie. She took the initiative to send me a message, asking me to meet her at the restaurant where we had our first date. When I received the message, a glimmer of hope welled up in my heart, as if I had seen a ray of light in the darkness. I dressed up carefully and arrived at the restaurant with a nervous heart. The moment I walked into the restaurant, I saw Ellie sitting in the corner. She was wearing a gorgeous dress, which was a gift from the mechanical octopus lord. The material of the dress shimmered with a strange light, as if it contained mysterious power. Her long blonde hair had been carefully combed and arranged in an elegant bun, with a few strands falling down her cheeks, adding a touch of charm. Her makeup was exquisite and heavy, with bright lipstick on her lips, like a burning flame. Her figure was accentuated by the dress, making her look breathtakingly beautiful. I walked up to her and sat down. For a moment, we were both silent, and the atmosphere was particularly awkward. I broke the silence first, saying, "Ellie, I'm very happy that you asked me out. I really want to talk to you." Ellie looked up at me, and there was no longer the tenderness in her eyes as before, only a trace of coldness and detachment. She said, "Jack, I asked you out because I want to tell you that it's really over between us. I hope you can let go of me and start a new life." I felt a pang of heartache, and tears welled up in my eyes. I said, "Ellie, can our relationship of so many years end so easily? Can you really bear to leave me and be with that mechanical creature?" A flicker of hesitation passed through Ellie's eyes, but it quickly hardened. She said, "Jack, you don't understand. The mechanical octopus lord has not only brought me strength, but also an understanding and empathy like never before. Being with it is when I truly find my own value." I tried to persuade her, "Ellie, you are enchanted by its appearance and strength. It is just a mechanical creature without emotions. It cannot give you true love and warmth. Our once feelings were so real and so good. Have you forgotten?" Ellie shook her head and said, "I haven't forgotten, but that's all in the past. I have a fulfilling and content life now. You should also look forward and not waste your time on me." I felt utterly desperate. I didn't know what to do to make Ellie change her mind. Should I let go and let her go after what she called happiness? Or should I keep fighting, even if there was only a glimmer of hope? This decision was torturing me. Each choice felt like a heavy shackle weighing me down. Just then, the lights in the restaurant suddenly flickered, and a powerful energy fluctuation came from the window. Ellie and I looked out the window in surprise and saw the huge figure of the mechanical octopus lord appear on the street. Its tentacles waved in the air, emitting a booming sound. Ellie's eyes immediately filled with excitement and anticipation. She stood up and said, "Jack, I'm leaving." After that, she walked towards the door. I looked at her back, my heart filled with reluctance and pain. I knew that this moment might be my last chance. I shouted, "Ellie, I love you. I won't give up." Ellie's footsteps paused for a moment, but in the end she did not turn back. She walked out of the restaurant and walked towards the mechanical octopus lord. I sat in the restaurant, tears welling up in my eyes. I knew that this painful choice was far from over, and that I would face even more difficult challenges. Whether I could win the battle against the mechanical octopus overlord and win Ellie's heart was still unknown. But I always had one belief in my heart, and that was that no matter how difficult it was, I would never give up easily, because my love for Ellie had long since gone to the bone. Ellie's determined back as she left was like a heavy hammer, pounding on my heart, and I was unable to break free from the abyss of pain for a long time. I sat in the restaurant in a daze, and the surrounding noise seemed to become distant and indistinct. My tears flowed uncontrollably, dripping onto the table in front of me. In the days that followed, I fell into a state of near madness. I couldn't accept that Ellie had just left me, and I couldn't bear the thought of the mecha octopus lord taking her away from me. I started gathering all the information I could about the mecha octopus lord, trying to find its weaknesses and a way to wake Ellie up. I reviewed a great deal of information, From ancient legends to the latest scientific research, from mysterious alien civilizations to advanced mechanical manufacturing technology. I left no stone unturned in my search for any clue that might be related to the Meccano octopus lord. I also visited many experts and scholars to ask them about mechanical creatures and alien technology. However, most people knew very little about the Meccano octopus lord, and some even thought I was talking nonsense and did not believe that such a powerful mechanical creature existed. But I didn't give up. I firmly believed that if I kept looking, I would find the answer. Finally, by chance, I found some secret documents about the mechanical octopus lord in an abandoned laboratory. The documents were hidden in a dilapidated safe, covered in dust and cobwebs, as if they had been forgotten for a long time. My hands trembled as I opened the files. They contained detailed records of the origin of the mechanical octopus lord and its evil plans. It turned out that the mechanical octopus lord was not a simple mechanical creature, but a war machine created by an evil race from a distant galaxy. This race possessed highly developed technology, and they were trying to conquer the entire universe. The mechanical octopus lord was their vanguard. The Meccano octopus approached Ellie not out of so-called love, but to use her to obtain a mysterious power. This power is hidden in our world and can only be activated by someone with a special physique. Ellie, it just so happens, is the one with the special physique. The Meccano octopus gradually made Ellie lose herself by constantly instilling false emotions and thoughts in her, and she became its puppet. As I read the documents, my heart was filled with anger and fear. I was angry that the mechanical octopus lord had so despicably exploited Ellie's emotions, and I was afraid that if the mechanical octopus lord obtained that mysterious power, the entire world would be in great peril. I knew that I had to act quickly to stop the mechanical octopus lord's plot. I took these documents and found some experts and scholars who had previously doubted my investigation. When they saw these documents, they were all shocked. They began to study the documents carefully and worked with me to formulate a plan to try to stop the mechanical octopus lord's actions. We discovered that the core device of the mechanical octopus overlord is its energy source, and as long as this core device is destroyed, it can be disabled. However, this core device is protected by a powerful energy shield, and ordinary weapons cannot cause any damage to it. We had to find a special material in order to create a weapon that can penetrate the energy shield. After some hard searching, we finally found this special material in a remote valley. This material radiated a strange light, as if it contained infinite power. We took this material back to the laboratory and, after countless trials and improvements, finally created a weapon that could penetrate the energy shield. As we prepared for the operation, I was filled with worry. I wondered how Ellie was doing, whether she was still under the control of the mechanical octopus overlord, and whether she would still recognize me. But I knew that no matter how dangerous it was, I had to save her. Finally, the time for action had come. We arrived at the lair of the mechanical octopus lord, a huge underground base surrounded by traps and defenses of all kinds. We carefully avoided these traps and defenses as we made our way towards the heart of the base. As we approached the core area, we suddenly heard a familiar voice. It was Ellie's voice, and she was talking to the mechanical octopus lord. My heart tightened, and I quickened my pace, wanting to see her as soon as possible. The moment I saw Ellie, my heart broke. Her eyes were vacant, her expression numb, as if she had lost herself. I shouted her name, trying to awaken her memory. When Ellie heard my voice, she raised her head slightly and glanced at me, but there was no emotional fluctuation in her eyes. The mechanical octopus lord saw our arrival and let out a furious roar. Its tentacles quickly reached out to us, trying to stop our movements. I knew that a fierce battle was about to begin. I gripped the weapon in my hands tightly, and secretly vowed in my heart that no matter how difficult it was, I would protect Ellie and stop the mechanical octopus overlord's plot, so that peace could return to our world. What would be the outcome of this battle? Would Ellie be able to regain her senses as a result of my efforts? Everything was still unknown, but I was already prepared to fight for love and justice. The angry roaring of the mechanical octopus overlord resounded throughout the underground base, a sound that seemed to shatter the surrounding air and cause ear-splitting pain. Its tentacles were like thick steel whips, whipping at us with a fierce wind. I held tightly in my hands the weapon that had been created with so much effort. Although I was nervous, I was also filled with a firm belief that I must not let this evil guy get away with it. I quickly sidestepped, avoiding the first tentacle that lashed out at me. The tentacle slammed heavily onto the ground, instantly creating a deep pit in the hard surface. Meanwhile, my friends, who had come with me, also sprang into action. Some of them were responsible for distracting the mechanical octopus overlord, while others were looking for a chance to get close to its core device. Eli remained standing aside, her eyes vacant as she watched everything that was happening, as if this fierce battle had nothing to do with her. I was anxious, dodging the attacks of the mechanical octopus lord while shouting Eli's name, trying to awaken her deep consciousness. Eli, wake up! Look at me! Look at our memories! My voice was faint in the midst of the noisy battle, but I did not give up. The mechanical octopus lord seemed to sense my attention on Ellie, and it sent more tentacles to attack me, trying to prevent me from getting close to Ellie. One of the tentacles carried a powerful force and stabbed straight at my chest. I quickly raised my weapon to block it. The huge impact made my arm tingle, and I almost couldn't hold the weapon. But I gritted my teeth, endured the pain, and pushed the tentacle away with all my strength. In the fight against the mechanical octopus lord, I discovered that although its tentacles were fierce, there was a short pause after each attack. I seized this opportunity, targeted a tentacle, rushed forward quickly, and chopped it down with my weapon. I heard a click sound, and the tentacle was cut by me with a deep cut. Black engine oil kept flowing out of the wound, and the mechanical octopus lord let out an even more furious roar. However, my action also completely angered it. Its eyes became even more red, and the remaining tentacles swung wildly, increasing the speed and power of the attack several times. The surrounding partners began to find it difficult to defend themselves, and people were constantly being hit by the tentacles and falling to the ground. I felt a tightening in my heart, knowing that I couldn't continue like this, and that I had to find a way to break through as soon as possible. Just then, I saw Ellie's body tremble slightly, and a flicker of hesitation seemed to flash in her eyes. A glimmer of hope welled up in my heart, and I shouted even louder, "Ellie, you do love me, don't you? Don't let it control you. Come back." Perhaps my shouting had an effect, as Ellie's eyes gradually gained some focus. She looked at me, her lips moving slightly, but no sound came out. The mechanical octopus lord seemed to have sensed Ellie's change. It sent out one of its tentacles and reached out for Ellie, trying to pull her to its side. I was shocked, and without hesitation, I rushed over and used my body to block the tentacle. The tentacle hit my back hard, and I felt a sharp pain. I almost couldn't stand, but I still stood strong in front of Ellie. "Ellie, I won't let it hurt you, you must wake up," I said, breathing heavily. Tears flashed in Ellie's eyes as she looked at me and finally said a word, "Jack?" Hearing her voice, I was filled with emotion, but this was not the time to reminisce. I took the opportunity to say to Ellie, "Ellie, this guy has been using you. All it wants is the power in you. It has no emotions at all. Think about our past, the good times we spent together." Ellie's eyes were filled with struggle. She looked at the mechanical octopus lord and then at me, as if she was making a difficult decision. Just then, the mechanical octopus lord launched another attack, and its tentacles, like flashes of black lightning, swept towards us. I raised my weapon and prepared to meet the attack. Just as the tentacles were about to hit us, Ellie suddenly shouted, "No!" A determined look flashed in her eyes, and she pushed me away forcefully, rushing towards the mechanical octopus lord herself. I was stunned, looking at Ellie's back, my heart full of worry, but I quickly recovered and followed closely behind her. Ellie used her familiarity with the mechanical octopus lord to skillfully avoid some of its attacks, while guiding my friends and I to find its weak points. With Ellie's help, we gradually found the rhythm of attacking the mechanical octopus lord. We cooperated with each other, constantly attacking its tentacles and body. The movements of the mechanical octopus lord began to slow down, and its energy seemed to be constantly depleting. Finally, we found a perfect opportunity. Together with my friends, I launched an attack, attracting most of the mechanical octopus lord's attention, while Ellie took the opportunity to get behind it and approach its core device. She took the special tool we had brought with us and smashed it hard against the core device. There was a loud bang and the core device was destroyed. The body of the mechanical octopus lord trembled violently, and its tentacles hung limply to the ground, emitting a mournful sound. As the core device was damaged, the light on its body gradually dimmed, and it finally stopped moving. The battle was over. Ellie and I looked at each other, our eyes filled with tears. After this fierce confrontation, we had finally defeated the mechanical octopus overlord and freed Ellie from its control. But we both knew that the wounds and effects of this battle would take a long time to heal. What kind of life would we face next, and how should we go forward? These questions were before us, but at the moment, we cherished the time we could spend together again. The underground base after the battle was over was filled with a pungent smell of burning and engine oil. The huge body of the mechanical octopus overlord lay quietly on the ground, like a collapsed steel mountain, no longer threatening. Ellie and I stood still, our eyes meeting. In that moment, 1,000 words flowed in the silent gaze. Ellie's eyes were full of tears, and those tears contained remorse for being confused in the past, happiness at regaining her freedom, and even deeper love for me. Her lips trembled slightly, as if she wanted to say something, but she was at a loss for words. I walked up to her and gently embraced her in my arms, feeling the warmth of her body. I had waited for this moment for far too long. "Jack, I'm sorry. Ellie finally spoke, her voice trembling with sobs. "I was bewitched by it, and I did so many things to hurt you." I hugged her tightly and whispered, "Don't say any more, Ellie. It's all in the past. As long as you're back, nothing else matters." We stayed in this ruined base for a while, and then I helped the somewhat weak Ellie walk out of the underground base with my friends. Outside, the world was bright and sunny, with a gentle breeze blowing, in stark contrast to the darkness and horror inside the base. Ellie slightly narrowed her eyes, feeling the long-lost warm sunshine, and a faint smile appeared on her face. Back at home, Ellie still seemed to have not fully recovered from her previous experience. She always sat quietly on the sofa with a vacant look in her eyes, as if she was still remembering those terrible past events. I knew that she needed time to heal her inner wounds, so I silently stayed by her side, giving her the utmost care. In the days that followed, Ellie and I began to work hard to repair our relationship. We redecorated the room, removing all the things associated with the mechanical octopus overlord and replacing them with decorations we had liked before. Together, we planted new flowers in the garden, and looking at the tender green seedlings, we saw our new hope. Ellie also began to actively participate in social activities and regain her old friends. She gradually smiled more and became much more cheerful. However, whenever it was quiet at night, I could still feel her unease. She often woke up in a panic, sweating, and mumbling something about a terrible dream. One night, Ellie suddenly sat up in the middle of the night, breathing heavily and muttering something terrible. I immediately woke up, turned on the light, and saw her face full of fear. I was heartbroken. I held her tightly in my arms and whispered, "Don't be afraid, Ellie. I'm here. I won't let anything happen to you." Ellie said shakily, "Jack, I always dream about the mechanical octopus lord. It seems to be still by my side, trying to take me away." I stroked her hair gently and said, "That was just a dream, Ellie. We've defeated it and it will never come back. You have to trust me and our love." Ellie nodded and leaned her head against my shoulder, gradually calming down. In order to help Ellie get over her fears, I decided to take her on a trip. We chose a quiet seaside town, where the air was fresh and the sound of the waves gentle. We strolled along the beach, holding hands and feeling the sea breeze. Ellie's face was filled with a happy smile, and she picked up beautiful shells one after the other, as if she had returned to the time when we first met. During our days at the beach, we watched the sun rise and set together, and tasted the local delicacies together. Ellie's mood was getting better and better, and she laughed more and more. One day, we were sitting on the rocks by the sea, watching the sun set. Ellie suddenly turned to me and said, "Jack, thank you. You have helped me rediscover myself and our love. I will never leave you again." I looked at her with love in my eyes and said, "Ellie, we have been through so much. In the future, no matter what difficulties we encounter, we will face them together. I will always love you and protect you." After saying this, we embraced tightly together. Under this beautiful sunset, our love was truly redeemed. Back at the bed and breakfast in town, we unexpectedly met an old scholar who had once studied mechanical creatures. After hearing about our experience, he gave us a thumbs up and said, "You guys are really amazing for defeating that powerful mechanical octopus lord. In fact, its appearance has also given us some warning, making us pay more attention to the development and application of technology." The old scholar's words made us reflect. We realized that although we had defeated the mechanical octopus lord, the potential threat posed by technology still existed. We decided that we would do our part to protect our world in the future. After the trip was over, we returned home and started a new life. Ellie got her career back on track, and I worked even harder. Our lives were simple but full of happiness. Whenever we think back to those days fighting the mechanical octopus overlord, a sense of pride and determination wells up in our hearts. We believe that as long as we love and support each other, we can overcome anything that comes our way. Our love has been sublimated in this ordeal, and our future is full of hope because of this unwavering love. And the pain and fear of the past will become the most precious wealth in our lives, making us cherish the happiness in front of us even more